An accountability court in Lahore remands PMLN President Shehbaz Sharif to NAB custody for 2 weeks in the money laundering case. The primary level schools in the country will be reopened tomorrow. The National Command and Operations Center says the decision is taken after consultations with all the federating units including Azad Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan. Amnesty International says it has been forced to halt its India operations due to reprisals from the government. It also accuses government of indulging in with witch hunt of human rights organizations. Well, that's all for the moment. For more details and live streaming, log on to our website, world.ptv.com.pk. You can find us on Facebook page with the name of PTV World and follow us on Twitter at WorldPTV. Thanks a lot for watching, and it's goodbye for now.
The Kathak dance from the mountainous terrain of the legendary Khyber Pass is performed by an all-male group of hardy tribesmen.
Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm farrukh Pitafi. We have been talking about various international affairs. Today, let us come back to Pakistan's own politics, especially because yesterday it seemed as if nothing else was happening in the country when Shehbaz Sharif was arrested in Lahore. We know that his request for or plea for his bail was denied, and then he was apprehended. This is not the first time he has been apprehended. In the past also he is, since he is going through a trial, especially on money laundering case, he was arrested. But media somehow made it into something very big. And while we were actually following this report, many international developments were eclipsed. That is not all. Yesterday, Asif Ali Zardari, former president, head of Pakistan People's Party parliamentarians, was also indicted in money laundering case. And we still have to see whether he is going to be apprehended soon or not. But these are important aspects. Then in reaction, we saw Maryam Nawaz taking to the podium, and their narrative was, her party's narrative was very strong. It seems that within her party, if there was a voice of reconciliation, that is Shehbaz Sharif's voice, and that has been taken over by the hawkish elements like Maryam Nawaz herself. And then we saw Bilawal Bhutto Zardari's tweets as well. And today we have heard that on the 11th October, the Alliance of Opposition Parties, PDM, is going to kickstart its agitation movement from Quetta. Today we are going to talk about the importance of these developments, whether it is our old habit of making a mountain out of molehill, or whether Shehbaz Sharif's arrest yesterday was quite different. On the other side, we listen to the government also. Government has been giving its narrative, but there seems to be some kind of concern. At least we saw certain ministers talking about it as if it was a big deal. So we are going to talk about all these things and more. And in order to help us understand these issues, we are joined by Mohammad Ibrahim Khan Sahab, who is MNA of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, the ruling party. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Next to him is former Justice Shah Khawar. He is a legal expert of renown. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. And then joining us on Skype, I guess, is Rana Ihsan Afzal, who is leader of Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us as well. We are going to talk about all these matters. Let me start with Ibrahim Khan Sahab. So your take on the importance of this arrest. Do you think it amounts to something big? And this narrative of PMLN, that there is a NAB PTI nexus. What do you have to say on that?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, his arrest was a clear decision by the High Court, Lahore High Court. And when they're talking about a nexus, that means they're also maligning the judiciary into this rejection of his bail. I think it's very irresponsible.
Right.
On behalf of this Muslim League and or the people who are trying to join these different allegations into making it a story. It's a very, very clear open and shut case that he was not able to produce evidence of source of income, where it was coming from. And it was a simple money laundering case, and the judges gave a decision. I mean, they could have granted him, he was on an interim bail, I guess.
You realize
confirmed his base, but if they did not feel comfortable with
that this doesn't amount to conviction at this moment. It was merely a bail plea which was rejected.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it is totally the right and the decision making of the courts, and
Okay.
nobody can. You see, the issue is that since they were in the government in the previous years or
Okay.
the decade before, when they used to dictate the judges, they feel it only works that way. It really doesn't, because
Right.
PTI has nothing to do with
His
influencing any department, or I mean, nobody can. I believe, I have a strong conviction with this is what I'm saying.
And
Nobody can influence the judiciary.
right. And if you mean that there wasn't any kind of strange happening at all here, are you implying that there was no, voluntary effort by Mia Shahbaz Sharif to get arrested either?
This is another aspect of it. You can look at it from a different angle.
Because many of the PTI leaders
because
are
what
talking
they
about
did was they withdrew their application for bail,
Okay.
and ultimately that also resulted into his arrest.
Right. Sheikh Howard Saab, how big a deal this is? I ask this because on one side it seems merely a procedural matter. On the other side, when you look at the way the proceedings took place and the kind of attention it garnered, Dr. Abdullah Abdullah was in Pakistan, but media kept on obsessing about Shahbaz Sharif, right? Whether it was a procedural thing or it is really a big deal, a big turn in the entire story. You kindly help us understand.
I don't think that there is some connection or nexus with the visit of Mr.
No,
Abdullah.
I'm just saying that there was a big story happening,
Oh, yeah, of
but the
course.
media kept on obsessing
Of course,
about
of course,
something else.
because the arrest of Mia Shahbaz Sharif was a very hot news,
Yeah, but it hasn't happened for the first time.
No,
not
it
the
hasn't
last.
happened for the first time, but keeping in view the scenario which took place in the recent past,
Okay.
there was an all-parties conference in
Right.
which he was a very important component. And there was a joint declaration by the all-parties conference, and above all, there was a video address of audio and video address of Mia Muhammad Nawaz Sharif,
Right.
which heated the already heated atmosphere more, aggravated the same, and that is why he is the leader of the opposition, and this was a very, very important and burning news, which took coverage of all of the media.
No, but my question essentially was whether it is really that big a deal, because it is Islamabad High Court, Lahore High Court. There are other forums present where they can always go and seek relief.
Of course,
Yeah.
they have so many remedies available. As Mr. Ibrahim Khan pointed out, that this is a conception that this bail has been withdrawn or has
Application.
been dismissed by the High Court, the division bench of the High Court itself. This is not the case. The petitions were withdrawn, and on the basis of withdrawn, the petitions were dismissed, and there were already the arrest warrant was in field, and that is why they apprehended him in the vicinity of the Lahore High Court. So, blaming the courts in this particular case, I believe, is not justified, and because the petitions were withdrawn by the counsel of the Shahbaz Sharif themselves. Okay, we know that what are the circumstances where such applications or petitions are withdrawn from the High Court.
Okay.
When we argue the case before the courts and we find that despite all our efforts and advancing arguments, the court is not persuaded to grant us relief, and
Okay.
especially in the bail cases, either it is after arrest bail or the pre-arrest bail. There is always in the mind of the lawyers that if the bail is dismissed, there will be a finding by the court which may result into adverse finding and cause prejudice to their case, which will be in the trial court. So this is always a legal strategy that instead of getting an adverse order from the court, you withdraw it.
Preemptively.
Yes, of course. And preserve those arguments for some other occasion.
Right.
So this was, I believe, a legal strategy adopted by the council of the Shahbaz Sharif. So I believe that it is not justified that there is a criticism on the judicial system or on the judiciary. There might be some political aspects from the other side,
Right.
but I believe that this was a routine case in which the High Court heard this petition for a very long time. There were so many adjournments, so many hearings, and finally it was disposed of on the basis of
Let me go to the other
withdrawal
side.
of the petitions.
Let me take into cognizance the other side of the argument. Rana Ehsan Afzal Sahab, let me ask you this question. While it seems quite clear, we have a legal expert here. We also have PTI's voice to represent the government. But there seems to be a consensus that whatever happened, it was voluntary affair. And yet, PMLN's narrative that we heard coming from Maryam Nawaz and Ahsan Iqbal Sahab seemed to be very different. It was an accusation against People's Party that it doesn't fight its cases in courts, but it does in front of media. Is it not true that now your party seems to be copying the same pattern?
I think not. I think if the NAB case was so strong, why would NAB seek to cancel the bail? I mean, the proceeding should have continued and the verdict should have come, and if he would, if his defense was not good enough, the court could have pronounced him guilty and then he should have been arrested. That is how things work all over the world. But over here, NAB was in a hurry.
You had actually appealed, the procedure, and you had gone to the court for as an appeal, right? So it is not the court that is supposed to indict him or to convict him.
Yes. So basically, I'm talking about the bail. NAB wanted to get the bail cancelled, and it was if the case was so strong, and at this stage where the reference is almost complete, I think proceedings should have continued, and they should have waited for a verdict to arrest him. And you were saying, if this is normal procedure, I don't see a normal procedure when all of a sudden after the
Zara Sahab, hang on. I think that the voice of our guest was not reaching you. Let me reiterate what they have said. They said that the application was withdrawn by the councils of Shahbaz Sharif Sahab, and it was done preemptively because there seemed to be a possibility that there will be cancellation and there might be some kind of observation that could have complicated his case further.
Yes, that is so, and that is why
if you have withdrawn, how can you blame the NAB?
Because it was the NAB which was pursuing in the court that the bail should be cancelled. I mean, why should that he should be given into physical remand? It was the NAB which was pursuing it, and there was no need for it to do so if it has a strong case against Shahbaz Sharif.
No, but Zara Sahab, you understand that bail is not a fundamental right. It is a relief which can be withdrawn.
Yes, but I'm saying if the case had that much strength in it, they should have proceeded without arrest him. Do so.
Okay.
And my point here is that it is not normal that after the APC, all of a sudden, Shahid Khaqan Abbasi gets summons from the NAB, Maulana Fazlur Rahman Sahab gets summoned from NAB, and then, Zardari Sahab gets indicted. It is purely, and it is visible to everyone, that after APC, that you are trying to silence this movement. But let me assure you that this movement will not be silenced, but the government has just given more fuel to it.
Rana Sahab, I'm at a loss. You'll have to help me understand. If government actually gets back at the opposition parties, why would the opposition leaders' own council withdraw the application for bail?
As you've already said, that when it seems that it is going to hurt the case, and it was quite obvious that the judgment was going to go for the cancellation of the bail, that is when it was decided that it is better that we take it.
Is
Yes.
there a possibility that the narrative of Maryam Nawaz Sharif was hurting Shehbaz Sharif and he preferred to go behind the bars rather than actually staying out?
No, I don't think so. There is no such thing that, he decided to do it. It was NAB which wanted him to do it. Even, I think it would have seemed very fair that if they had continued the proceeding and not arrested him and, just wait for the verdict, let the defense put up its defense. He was not at a risk of flight. You could have put him on ECL. And he was
Yeah.
complying with all the hearings. He was complying throughout this case. So there was no need to put him behind bars.
Right. Again, Ibrahim Khan Saab, since we are talking about what exactly is happening, I understand the opposition needs to check its narrative. But let me ask you about your own narrative. On one side, it is Sheikh Rashid Saab who he comes on record and says whatever he likes. Then Shehzad Akbar Saab was recently talking about some deal, and he was talking about Mia Nawaz Sharif's leaving the country as a result of some kind of deal, and then he says that it was not with the government. So what exactly I fail to understand what kind of narrative this is. Is it your party's narrative, or these narratives are individual narratives of these leaders to cabinet members?
I think this is their personal observations, one can call, because Sheikh Rashid Saab is an independent ally of PTI. He is not PTI.
Yeah, but he is a cabinet minister.
He is a cabinet minister, and he is in habit of giving his prophecies all the time.
Okay.
And people really do listen to him and then try to find out. Sometimes he's right, sometimes he's wrong.
Yeah, but
So
given that he is your minister,
and his personal
given that he is your minister, and whenever he speaks, there is no corrigendum, there is no attempt to distance the government or cabinet from his narrative. It functionally becomes the narrative of the cabinet. Is it not?
It really does. No, it does not work that way. I mean, he is a member of the cabinet, but he is a head of an independent party.
Okay.
Okay,
Now,
so-
let us talk about the agitation that is planned, right? PDM has finally, Pakistan Democratic Movement, they are calling it, and they have decided that from 11th, they are going to start agitating.
With all due respect,
Okay.
this APC was nothing more than a group of 10 families who got together to protect their personal interest over the national interest.
Right.
This is what our perception is,
Okay.
and this is what we believe. That's why they have joined hands, because 5 years back, they were like literally, I mean, fighting and each other. And
do you
cases were
realize that
getting-
these 10 families control a sizable, chunk of people's votes? In Punjab, for example, PLN has support.
Voting
People's
for-
Party
let's-
has support in Sindh.
Let's distinguish between somebody voting for you and then somebody coming out on the streets for you.
Okay.
Are entirely two different things.
Yeah.
I don't think that they have any moral grounds, high moral grounds available to them
Okay.
to get the people together or be able to muster up a support of the people of Pakistan.
Okay. When I come back to you, sir, I'm going to talk
other
about
than the madrasa students by Fazlur Rahman.
Right. Shakhawat Sahab, let me now ask you about another development that took place yesterday. We saw former President Asif Ali Zardari was being indicted in various other cases, for example, Tosha Khana and others. But one case that kept on slipping, that was mega money laundering. And yesterday, he was indicted in that case. Which of the two cases, Shehbaz Sharif and Asif Ali Zardari's case, is a bigger deal?
I believe both are very important for them, and I believe both are in fix, because The allegations are very square.
Okay.
And but the fact remains that okay, there are allegations, and there was very hype created by from the government side also and from the NAB also. But now what is to be seen is that what case they have prepared in their final investigation report,
Okay.
on the basis of which references have been filed, and which evidence they have collected, the claims which they have made in the media, and either those have been transformed into proper evidence against these two persons or other accused.
Right.
So it will be seen when the case will be started, when now the indictment is the first step. After
Right.
that the prosecution evidence will be led,
Right.
produced by the NAB, and they will be cross-examined, and documentary evidences. Then it will be seen that which sort of case they have prepared, presented before the court, and how strong evidence is with the
Right.
prosecution.
Okay.
Because one thing which we have seen is that the more the lacunas are in the investigation or investigation report, more it is beneficial to the accused.
Right. And I totally understand that. But let me take us ourselves back to the moment when this entire case against Asif Ali Zardari was being instituted. Remember that notice that was taken and a JIT was formed,
Yeah, of
and
course.
then that JIT report was outed as well. And in that report, it seemed that it was quite, a strange kind of evidence. You felt that the other
Yes.
person is guilty. So why is it that when JIT is presented before the court, it loses steam?
Actually, I tell you one thing, which is a very technical and legal thing. JIT itself has nothing to do with the prosecution
Okay.
or investigation.
Understand.
That is, the JIT report is just a guideline for the investigation
Right.
officers to conduct investigation on those lines.
Okay.
JIT never becomes part of the final investigation report,
Okay.
because that is just an exercise where they have to draw some parameters of the investigation.
Right. But
So-
evidence is evidence.
Evidence
right?
is evidence, but the collection of evidence is the job of the investigation team of the NAB,
Okay.
which unfortunately is not that up to the mark, I tell you, because I have seen their capacity.
You're telling me that a cook is so bad at his job
Yeah, of
that
course.
even if you cook something for them
You-
and hand it over to them, they won't be able to do justice.
This is the right analysis, I believe.
Wow.
The money, I believe, which has been attributed to even Mr. Asif Ali Zardari and other co-accused, that is not that money which was claimed in media and the press conferences.
Okay.
Because you claim one thing but you could not prove it, and you come up with such magnitude of the money laundered, which is not commensurate to the claims which they made in the press conferences also. So
Absolutely, but procedural aspects,
Yeah.
that certain units, industrial units are declared sick units,
Yeah.
and then there is a relief given, and then that money is siphoned off to other accounts,
Correct.
and then that is used as lien to get more money from the banks.
okay, but the
That seems to be very forensically proven.
Our legal procedure requires that each and every set of evidence must have link with each other,
Okay,
and there has to be a chain of links
right,
of evidences.
right.
If there is a little break in the chain, the benefit goes to the accused.
Okay.
So this is a big challenge for the prosecution team.
You have been a
because-
former judge, sir.
Yeah, of course.
Let me ask you a very hypothetical case. If I am a chief minister and I provide relief to a unit that I consider a sick
Correct.
unit, and there might be something fishy going on there, right? Will the court automatically perceive, if I connect further how that money moved on to personal accounts of people, that my intent was mala fide, or will the court actually need some proof of intentions as well.
Correct. Okay, the courts normally decide cases on the basis of material and evidence collected by the investigation and presented by the prosecutors.
Okay.
So there is a very important nexus between the two.
Okay.
If you have a good case but could not be presented in the court in a professional manner or with that high standards of prosecution,
Okay.
then the other side, I frankly tell you, the capacity of the prosecutors I have seen, and especially the prosecutors who are employed for the accountability courts, I believe there is no match of any expertise between them and the defense counsel who come from the other side.
Right.
So I believe that the capacity, training and grooming of the prosecutor is not of the level.
In short, sir, you are not very hopeful.
No, I am not very hopeful because these cases will take a lot of time
Right.
for its adjudication.
And you're talking about Asif Ali Zardari, who stayed behind the bars for 9 years without any conviction.
Mr. Pitafi, I tell you, this is a very easy job for a defense lawyer.
Okay.
That if there is plethora of number of witnesses, if there are 50, 60 witnesses, if there are 10 accused, every lawyer of an accused has to cross-examine each and every witness.
Right.
And the court cannot stop them.
Right.
That either you take 5 days, 10 days, 20 days cross-examining a witness.
Right.
There is no embargo. So what I believe is,
It can take a lot of time.
because if
How
there,
much time can it take?
I believe that it will take a couple of years to
At
finalize
least
these
or
cases.
at
Yes,
maximum?
of course.
Wow. Wow. Let me ask Rana Sana Abdul Saab. Sir, remember those days when Shahbaz Sharif Saab used to talk about Asif Ali Zardari as if he was the most guilty party in the country, and he used to say that he is going to drag him on streets, and yet now it seems that your party is stating on record that you are going to stand with Asif Ali Zardari and you are going to support him. Do help us understand how do we reconcile this somersault?
We're standing with the opposition party for a cause which is the Pakistani people, that this government has failed to deliver on all fronts, be it economic. There is a massive failure on the economic side, be it governance. We have seen that the type of governance which is happening, it can't be worse with the shuffling and mismanagement in each and all aspects, be it wheat, sugar, everywhere. So we feel that government has failed to deliver, and it is on this agenda that we are together. And when you talk about corruption, I think we should look at the international figures, the Transparency International figures on corruption were, I think in 2013 they were around 140, and we brought it down to 117, and it has risen again to 120. So I think corruption reduced in our tenure, and this.
But
this
you realize, sir, that Transparency International's index is primarily a perception index. So it essentially doesn't mean that automatically it is an objective commentary on reality. But regardless of that, right now you are talking about a party against whom most of the cases were actually filed during your government's time. Not one government, but 3 successive governments of your party. And now somehow, magically, they are your allies and you are going to go, join hands with them to agitate in Quetta and elsewhere.
You see, our party believes in accountability across the board. What we are pointing out is that we see that Asim Bajwa is not being checked. We see that Jahangir Tareen is not being checked. We see that Alima Baji is allowed to take the amnesty scheme, and she is given a free chit. We see that the foreign funding case in the election commission is not being proceeded further. And
let me ask you something here. Let me ask you if you think that certain people are not being, held accountable does it automatically give you the right to say that we shouldn't be held accountable either? Because this argument will say, will mean or imply that two wrongs make a right, do they?
What I'm saying is that when you see that an APC is announced and all of a sudden all the guns are on the opposition, on all the parties which are going to make this movement successful, and all of a sudden everyone is being called in NAB and someone is being indicted, and then you see the opposition leader being put in jail.
You have
and
to
the
understand my frustration, sir. You have to understand why I'm at a loss right now. Because your party was the first party that started raising the slogan of fighting corruption. It was your party in 90s, it was your party in 2000s, it was your party in 2020 that kept on talking about accountability. And all of a sudden, when you go out of power, it seems that corruption stops being that serious an issue.
Okay, let's leave what I have to say and let's talk about, different justices who've given their reports during the bail acquittals, during the acquittals of our people from NAB. For example, Justice Bakir, he said that in his 87-page report that NAB is doing political victimization, it is violating human rights. And in his report it states, very beautifully a saying of John Stuart Mill, that a state which dwarfs its men in order
when you were in power, when you were in government, was there this very NAB or was there none?
Oh, there was this NAB, but we were not using
Why didn't you change it?
Victimization which is being done today.
No, but why didn't you fix it?
I like the NAB-Niazi nexus. It is evident.
No, but this was something that People's Party also used to say, that there is a NAB-Nawaz nexus. So anybody who is in opposition will keep on talking about that, right?
Right.
What are you doing to actually rebut? Ibrahim Khan Sahab, Rana Sahab, I'm going to come back to you, sir. Ibrahim Khan Sahab, with due respect, there seems to be this impression that somehow, that accountability is not, doesn't have the same standard for all. And this is a narrative that is selling on social media, that might be actually bought by certain anchors on television as well. Why are you not actually rebutting it effectively? And then there is this impression, at least given by certain segments of media, that media is not that free. I see Maryam Nawaz sitting on television and speaking whatever she wants to say. There is no control. But somehow, then when you go to social media or go into certain communities, you find out that there are people who are saying that the media is under change. And so why are you not rebutting effectively both these charges?
We strongly feel that whatever the accusations they are making are baseless. You see, there are sequence of things. If an incident has taken place on 20th and the next one has taken on the 30th, you cannot take up the one on the 30th first, so you have to take the one on the 20th one first. And then you do not have, as an institution, that much of a capacity that the number of cases they have built against each other for the last 5-10 years.
If I
those have to be.
If you allow me to tinker a little with the numbers or dates you have given, if instead of 20th we say that it was 19th, then it becomes APC. And if you, when you are talking about 30th, if we make it 28th, it becomes Shahbaz Sharif's arrest. Are you saying that there is a connection between the two?
Give me a break.
I mean, you gave us two numbers.
No, I just
and I just actually
make you
connected.
understand the occurrence of events.
Yeah, but
if a criminal act has taken place earlier, will be addressed earlier, and the ones which is taking place later.
Here
will
we
be
have a
addressed
legal
later.
expert of renown, right? And he seems to be agreeing with you that there are certain procedural aspects, right?
Absolutely.
But he might be able to explain that to me. But your government should be able to explain it to the people. That doesn't seem to be happening. Why is your narrative not selling, sir?
The issue is, we strongly believe The people who say, I don't even have my own house in Pakistan, forget about having properties outside this country. The same party says we did not ask, went to see our, one of our representatives, Mr. Zubair, did not go to see general for personal favors, but it was a general 40 years old relationship that it was just a courtesy call. And then a day later she says, no, she was there, I mean, he went there because this was the issue that I mean, these guys do not just stick to one statement. So whatever they say, it's immaterial. You have to have moral grounds or some sort of legitimacy to your claims. Or
Ibrahim Khan Sahab,
sure.
I mean, you have seen that I have tried to cross-examine the PMLN side as well,
sure
right?
You do.
But the problem is, if your answer is that simple, if it Occam's razor actually applies to it, right? It is the simplest explanation. Why is it that if you feel strongly about it, you haven't been able to defend your case that strongly in public?
Well, that is your perception. I think we have been able to defend and we have been able to bring forward the truth to the people of Pakistan that all these two parties in particular were making big claims that they were, I mean, I would again quote Mr. Shahbaz Sharif that even a single penny is, I mean, proven at him.
Okay.
I mean, he can be dragged out of his grave and be hung and so on. And I mean, this kind of, you see, you do not, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted you such positions to be at, one should be responsible enough to make statements that you don't regret later on.
Okay, you're talking about me or you're talking
I'm talking about them. Not you.
Yeah, I was talking about media freedom,
No.
so I had to clarify that point. But let me ask the objective participant of the objective party in this discussion, right? Shah Khawat Sahab is not a party to
No, not at all.
either side.
Yes.
Shah Khawat Sahab, do you think that government's narrative is selling the way it is supposed to? Or is it opposition that seems to be enjoying an upper hand, perception-wise?
Perception, I believe, as a citizen, and I keep eye on all the situation and circumstances prevailing in the country. One thing which disturbs me is that there is a very hot and heated atmosphere, political. Polarization.
Yeah.
All right, the political parties who are in the opposition and who are in the government and on the treasury benches, they are adversaries to each other. They are supposed to oppose each other. And the role of opposition is also very important. But their role is to advance constructive opposition of the government policies. And the same way, reciprocally, the government is also required to create an atmosphere where the normal business of the government and the state is run without any political polarization and without any disturbance in the country.
Right.
So what I believe is that certain measures are to be adopted and taken by both the sides.
Right.
We are keeping aside, taking along their differences, all right, but they should be on some working relationship with each other.
Right. And that is a very smart segue from what I have said, from my question, right? But I have to come back to my original question. Perception-wise, there are two parties. You must be sitting among lawyers. You meet media men all the time.
Of course.
Which perception is winning at this moment? Government's perception or opposition's narrative?
What I believe is that the government perception is, I believe, on the defensive side. I tell you,
it is not dominating.
Not dominating, because there are certain things which are making things suspicious.
Okay.
As you were discussing, okay, I believe is that the slogan and the manifesto of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf was and is the drive against the corruption.
Okay.
There is no doubt in it. They got votes, majority votes from the people on this slogan.
Okay.
and this should be their narrative.
Okay.
But certain things are making whole this process as very, very suspicious.
Okay.
Because when
No, but,
I tell you.
Because I was just told that we are left with 4 minutes, so I want to actually go for another.
What I believe is that
round.
let this accountability process seem to be impartial.
Okay. That is
This is very important aspect of
that
the
is
matter, I tell you.
absolutely needed, and I think that is the need of the hour. But then Ahsan Afzal Sahab, I am told that we have to move towards concluding. So let me ask you to conclude at this moment for us. What exactly do you think situation is, and how it can be improved upon? Is there a possibility of any kind of interaction or cooperation between opposition and the government, or we have burned those bridges?
Okay, now Pitafi sir, please allow me to complete without interruption. You know, I was
that usually doesn't happen. This is television. I have to ask counter questions as well, and I keep on asking everywhere. Please go ahead.
Justice Maqbool Baqir quoted John Stuart Mill saying, and he said, "A state which dwarfs its men in order that they may be more docile instruments in its hands, even for beneficial purposes, will find that with small men, no great thing can really be accomplished."
Okay.
And that is the story of Pakistan since 73 years. You know, let's talk about
but
you
that
know, the history
again,
of Pakistan.
amazingly, you are telling me about how things might be compromised by quoting one judgment that you agree to, right? So that should imply that the judiciary and the media and everything is free and everything is hunky-dory. You are actually using one argument to undercut the same argument.
The press freedom index, it was 139 when we left, it's 145 today, it's gotten worse. Now you might call it another perception-based index, but these indexes matter. What I'm saying is that we have a history where judiciary has been maneuvered. We've had PCO judges, we've had dictatorships. And
Not
that
only
is the
maneuvered, but physically attacked also during your government's time.
I condemn it. I condemn it. It was a wrong move. It should never have happened, and we condemned it even then. So what I'm saying is that we need to move on towards the constitution of Pakistan. We need to discuss with all the stakeholders that how...
I'm taking that as your conclusion, sir. That is very important point that you have actually emphasized, constitution. Shahawat Sahab, very quickly, your conclusion as well, sir.
My conclusion is that, as my friend was referring to, if we look into the constitution and we abide by the constitution, there is solution to each and every problem.
Okay.
And adhering to the constitution is the basic duty of every citizen.
Right, and that is the most important thing. Ibrahim Khan sir, very quickly your conclusion, but again, you have seen the perception. Both my participants are agreeing that your narrative is not dominant.
Okay, its best demonstration will be now opposition is all getting together and see how much people follow them and come on the streets with on their call. If they're successful, then I'll agree with your assessment or your your
analysis.
Otherwise,
it is not my analysis. It is my question.
Your perception. What
no,
I'm
my question.
Okay, not your perception. Let's say it's just a general, assumably perceived idea that their narrative is selling more. This will be the bottom line where you will be able to determine if the people come after. Follow them and come on the street.
If they come out, you will agree with this perception.
I will agree, and we will do some things to
rectify the matter.
But if people do not come after them, and if you see the ladies in a rail exercise, which Bilal Bhutto did in Karachi, and they were agitating at night.
This is the end of the program, so we cannot go into those details. But I am told that we have to conclude the program. Sure. Ibrahim Khan Sahab, you have to understand that an anchor's job is to function as a contrarian Whatever
Absolutely.
you'll say, if I don't disagree with that, I won't be able to get the best answers.
Absolutely.
But Ibrahim Khan sir, thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Shakhawat sir, always great having you in the show. Rana Ehsan Afzal sir, thank you very much for your participation as well. Viewers, you have listened to our participants. The cases have been there for quite some time. And we have been talking about corruption for a lot of years as well. I keep on reminding you that I remember since my own childhood that we always talk about corruption. But now, whenever there are corruption charges and cases, something goes awry. Let us hope that doesn't happen, because Shah Khawat Saab very clearly has and candidly pointed out that there is some problem with prosecution, the way it proceeds and the way it actually holds people accountable. Let us hope in coming days clarity and objectivity trumps all confusion, and then we see logical conclusion to all the cases, whatever that might be. We are not judges here. It is our job to just point out what exactly is going on. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.
High in the western Himalayas, cradled in the Karakoram mountains of northern Pakistan, lies a plateau known as the Land of Giants. The Deosai Plateau in Gilgit-Baltistan is the second highest plateau in the world. The Deosai National Park is home to the endangered Himalayan brown bear. This is the sole habitat in the whole of South Asia that can claim an increasing bear population. When the Deosai National Park was created in 1993, little was known about the ecological needs of the bears. The park was divided into zones to allow for the shared use of resources between wildlife and people.
देवसाई में कोई कोर एरिया जिसको हम कहते हैं वो कोई 1400 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर का एरिया बनता है, जिसको कोर कहते हैं। कोर एरिया वो एरिया था जहाँ पे बियर्स की पॉपुलेशन डेंसिटी जो थी वो ज्यादा थी और प्रेफर करते थे उन एरियाज में रहना बियर्स।
Despite the demarcation of zones, the core areas are not always respected as being for the sole use of the wild animals. There are many demands on the park, including the nomadic herders that arrive each summer. Gujars journey annually from the plains of the Punjab to the Deosai, bringing their large herds of livestock to feed on the rich summer pastures. Their life is a hard one, of the sort typically associated with nomadic people.
यही माल मवेशी, ये बकरी घोड़ा खच्चर, सफर करना चलना। पहले हम बहुत ठीक थे, बड़ी अच्छी सहूलत थी हमारी, 45 के बाद अच्छे रहे हम। अभी हम तंग हो गए इसलिए कि महकमा जंगलात में जगह
The herders are taking their livestock deeper into the bear's habitat every year.
इनसे शुरू में जब नेशनल पार्क बनने से पहले या 50 साल या 60 साल 70 साल पहले की बात करें तो वहाँ पे 1-2 खानदान ही थे जो आ रहे थे व्यवसाय में। उनके लाइफ स्टॉक भी कम थे, उनका इम्पैक्ट पार्क के ऊपर इतना ज़्यादा नहीं था। ओवर द ईयर्स उनके खानदान की डिवीजन होती गई, एक घर से अब 10 घर बने हैं, 10 से 40 घर बने हैं, तो पार्क का एरिया तो जितना था उतना ही है।
In 2012, approximately 14,000 livestock belonging to nomadic as well as resident herders grazed the pastures of the Diosai National Park. Even more devastating for the park, the shepherds cut vast amounts of shrub for fuel, with dire consequences.
यहाँ की जो बुशेस हैं, छोटी मोटी झाड़ियाँ हैं, विलो की एक स्पीशी सेलेक्स की यहाँ पे होती है, उसको काट के वो अपना तमाम यूटिलाइजेशन जो है उनका हीटिंग का, कुकिंग वगैरह का सब कुछ उसी से करते हैं। उसका असल मसला ये है कि ये बहुत एलिवेटेड एरिया है, 12-13 हज़ार फीट से ऊपर का एरिया है। यहाँ पे एक सेलेक्स की स्पीशी को, एक प्लांट को ग्रो करने में बहुत अरसा लगता है।
If the habitat is to be saved for the bears, cutting down the slow-growing Diosai flora at this rate cannot continue. However, it's not just the Gujars and their livestock who have an impact on the park. In recent years, a new phenomenon is bringing unwelcome additional pressure on the park's resources. Commercial herders have started to run large herds of livestock through the park.
As the prices of meat in the market have gone up, everybody's brother wants to take animals up to Diosai. It's not just the old Gujars who used to do it for a subsistence living. It's become commercial now. More animals mean taking away the habitat from the bears. The bears are now getting pushed away into corners.
As the livestock consumes palatable plants, the composition of flora in the park is changing. Non-palatable plants are finding room to spread and flourish. The increasing incursions by the Gujars into additional park areas have to be addressed.
We have to work hard on managing how the Gujars come in and how they graze. So we go and set up a program, talk to the Gujar families, define where they're going to graze, how they're going to graze, how much of an area they're going to use. That has to be set up.
Today, the brown bear is one of the most threatened animals in South Asia. The future of the species in Pakistan, and perhaps the region, may well depend on the stability of the Diosai National Park. It and its biodiversity must be protected so that future generations can continue to enjoy this valuable part of our natural world.
Hello and welcome to B2B World News. With the latest news and updates, I'm Sana Makbool.
Joining Sana Makbool, I'm Shahzad Qayyum. Let's look at the headlines first.
All Afghan parties must work together for reduction in violence, leading to ceasefire, says Prime Minister Imran Khan in his meeting with Chairman Afghan High Council for Reconciliation, Abdullah Abdullah.
Prime Minister Imran Khan urges G20 countries and multilateral institutions for extension of debt suspension initiative for at least one more year.
Educational activities will resume across the country tomorrow as 30 million children will go to school for the first time since the lockdown was imposed after the spread of COVID-19 pandemic in March.